Kristen Campbell has been on fire on a personal 6-game winning streak, including a couple of shutouts. So she'll be in net for Toronto, and on the other side, Nicole Hensley. Ken Klee staying with her. She is 1-1 against Toronto this year.
And she had a great game on Sunday. It wasn't her fault that Minnesota lost that game. She did everything she could, but the women in front of her not able to find the back of the net, so she gets another chance here tonight to try to pick up a win.
Toronto can vault past Minnesota into second place with a regulation win tonight. Minnesota with a regulation win will be in first place and in a tie with Montreal. We're underway here in Minneapolis. Minnesota in the familiar purple sweaters. Road white for Toronto. Pushed in behind Campbell, and we're going to get our first whistle just 16 seconds into the hockey game. Here's Nurse from the blue line. She'll play it ahead. Miller, son, get out of her reach. She'll try to flip it toward the front, and then pouncing on it is Hensley. And you kind of alluded to it, Alexis. You know, she's been keeping Minnesota in games. She has just given up the 2 goals in her last 2 starts.
Yeah, she's done her job. You can only ask so much of your goaltender before the rest of the players need to start chipping in and score some goals themselves. And for most of the afternoon on Sunday, it was a goaltender battle, and it was just Boston who was able to score a couple on Minnesota to end up picking up that win. But Hensley was tested quite a bit as well in that game, and she came up with some big saves when it was close as well.
Kendall Coyne coming in, had Boreen on her right flank, flipped it toward her, but Jesse Comfer on the back check doing a beautiful job to frustrate that play. Comfer, a former Badger, a couple of points in her last 3 games for Toronto. Now this is number 51, Victoria Bach. Did not play for Toronto in the last meetings against Minnesota. Comes to the near wing side. Here's Allie Monroe. She'll hold it in deep for Toronto. Minnesota trying to regain control, and they do. It's Kelly Panik. Panik feeds it ahead for Zumwinkle. She'll ride the rail up the near wing and dump it in. Back after it is Callie Flanagan, former BC Eagle. And now Toronto will quickly come back the other way. About a minute and a half into this hockey game. And, you get the sense that Minnesota is just ready to explode. Getting that first one could be huge for their confidence as Campbell sweeps that one to the far wing side.
And sometimes that's all it takes, is just to get that one before the floodgates open. And sometimes when you're not getting those goals, you're gripping your stick tighter, you're trying a little bit too hard, and that's why coaches ask players to simplify the game when the goals aren't happening. We'll see if Minnesota changes their approach to that here today and can find a way to score some goals against this Toronto team.
Keep an eye on number 27, Emma Malte. She'll lug it into the Minnesota zone. Centering pass, Malte, kind of muffled shot that went out in front of the blue paint to the far wall. Fleming will jump on it and clear the zone for Minnesota. There's Malte again. She'll send a backhand right in on Hensley. We were talking to Troy Ryan before the game, and she might be the MVP of this thing during the turnaround.
Well, everybody's got a star next to Spooner's name on the roster, as they should, but Emma Malte has been great as well. She's got 5 points in her last 4 games. 3 games of the 4 she scored points in, so she's been rocking and rolling in this win streak that Toronto has had, and that's a tough thing if you're a team like Minnesota, who you got to pay attention to Spooner, but now you got another player on that second line you got to keep an eye on as well tonight. So Minnesota's going to have their hands full with the offense on this Toronto roster.
Here's Sophie Jakes from the Minnesota blue line. Had it picked off at center. And Leslie will send it back into the Minnesota zone. This is going to dribble back in deep. No icing called. There is Jocelyn Larocque rimming the end boards and sending it back out to center ice. Jocelyn Larocque, of course, the 2nd overall pick in the draft behind Taylor Heisig. Now coming in, this is Kramer. She has stood up nicely by Monroe in the circle. Was neutralized, couldn't get a shot toward the net.
And you can feel this crowd. Even on Sunday, I noticed as the later got on in the game and Minnesota was still sitting scoreless, every time they entered the offensive zone, the crowd got a little riled up. They are just waiting for a goal to be scored so they can celebrate something. You notice that there as the puck was carried in, they did the same ththing. They are anxious for this Minnesota team to score some goals.
Nurse, beautiful pass ahead for Miller. She'll come in on side, but then a nice job by Natalie Bookbinder to stand in the way of that shot. It never got through. Bookbinder, 7th round pick out of Wisconsin. And now Minnesota will bang it off the near wall. Rolls ahead at center. Trying to enter the zone was Boreen, but she was having a hard time. Loose puck in behind Campbell. There's Coyne Schofield right out in front, and it comes on through to the near wing. And Flaherty will pump it back in deep. You've talked about Coyne the last several games, how good she has been.
She's just been getting so many looks, and she's playing with a little bit of feist and at times even anger in her game, it feels like, where she is just looking for those opportunities, and another good look there to turn her body towards the net and get the shot on.
Here comes the leading goal scorer in the PWHL. Natalie Spooner from her knees got it toward the middle. Nobody there for Toronto. I mean, she is a scrapper. She is always around the puck. As you talked about, 10 goals, leading the league, third in points with 12. This is going to drift over to the far wing corner. Jessie Comfer will ratchet it around to the near wing side. Rougeau, kind of a muffled shot, again didn't get through to the net. In the corner, Bach tried to center, tied up by 3 Minnesota players as we're coming up on the 5-minute mark of period number 1. Still no goals in this hockey game. Here's Zumwinkle. Near wing side, nice mover on Rougeau. Oh, pad save by Campbell. Great look by Zumwinkle. Maybe got it with her blocker. And now Howard holds it in deep for Toronto. Boy, Grace Zumwinkle, 7 goals, 3 of them game winners. No doubt she has been one of the stars this year in the first year for Minnesota. There's a stick save by Nicole Hensley from long range. Fast will hold it in on the near wing side. Zumwinkle again will shovel it out. This is going to bounce toward the Toronto goaltender again. And now Blair Turnbull with some speed. Hands off to Malte. Back for Turnbull. Beautiful move, and she scores. Drifts in behind Hensley, and Toronto jumps out to a 1-0 lead here in Minneapolis.
That is one Nicole Hensley is going to want back. She had it in between her pads as Turnbull scores her 2nd goal of the season here. A bit of a squeaker, and those are the ones that make you shake your head if you're a goaltender. It was a great play to drive the net here, outworks the Minnesota defense, and Hensley, you can see her turning, and by the time she realized the puck was behind her, it was already over the line. And a tough start for Minnesota, who's had trouble scoring, now down a goal here against Toronto. Just a couple shots on net apiece for both these teams here to start tonight's matchup, but it's going to be Blair Turnbull who gets the scoring started.
He won 5 in a row, including that 4-1 win over Minnesota February 3rd up in Toronto. This is a team, remember, Alexis, that lost 5 of its first 7 games, but It has really all come together here in the month of February. As Cunnin throws it in, Flanagan will jump on it for Toronto, tries to clear the zone. Malte will do exactly that. Channel whips around and feeds it back toward the blue line. And now here's Malte again. And she's going to dump it in. Line change for Toronto.
And for Toronto, you know, you get that goal, and if you give up a goal like that for Minnesota when you're struggling to score, it becomes really frustrating. It feels like, well, they're not going in on our end, and then a squeaker's going in on the other side, and you start to second guess what you're doing. So Minnesota's just got to stay mentally focused here, get back to what they're doing well. They've gotten chances over the last few games, but they need to find ways to score more and not let a squeaker of a goal like that affect them this early in the game.
Brooke Bryant had a pretty good look at the net on the other end of the ice moments ago. She played really well against Boston on Sunday.
She really did. There were so many players for Minnesota who played with so much physicality, aggression, passion in that game against Boston. We'll see if that carries over here.
Yeah, the only game in the PWHL tonight. Minnesota with a regulation win will be in a tie for first. Toronto trying to get into second place with a regulation win. They'll go ahead of Minnesota.
It's crazy how much the standings have changed as of late. Earlier in the season, it was the best and the worst, and now everybody is just bunched together, just a few points separating most of these teams in the league, and that's how quickly things can change in the PWHL.
Right out in front, backhand, they score! Sophie Jakes. That is her first goal in a Minnesota uniform, and Minnesota gets the equalizer.
Well, welcome to Minnesota, Sophie Jakes. We talked about how good Susanna Tapani has been in her new team. And nice to see the new member of Team Minnesota making a difference here in this one. She gets her first goal of the season, her 2nd point overall. Talked about Ohio State University players. She also played her college hockey there, and a great play down low just to get this puck out. And Campbell's looking the other way, defending that short side, and they find Jakes, and she puts it in the back of the net off the backhand, and Minnesota taking a sigh of relief, I'm sure, on the bench that finally a puck has gone in the net. It's so cool to see these storylines throughout the PWHL and the impact so many of these players have had for so many different reasons. We'll have more coming up about her in the intermission, and so that just helps our storyline. Gets a goal, and then we get to talk about her some more later on in the game, so stay tuned for that as well.
Sophie Jakes, the assist going to Kelly Panic. So Panic now with 9 points on the year. That's her 8th assist. That's the thing about Panic. She has not scored a lot so far. Just 1 goal on the year, but she is still making plays.
Well, she's one of those players that's got such great vision. She always knows where the puck needs to be, and she always finds a way to get it there, which is why she has so many more assists than she does goals on the season. Some players just like to dish the puck, and Kelly Panic is definitely one of those players getting an assist in tonight's goal for Sophie Jakes.
Flanagan is going to drive it in. Hensley will leave it back here for Natalie Bookbinder. Stretch pass intercepted and thrown back into the Minnesota zone by Rougeau, veteran professional, 2-time Olympian. And now Fleming coming back for Minnesota, centering that 3rd line tonight for the team in purple. Open wing picked up by Toronto, trying to move it out of the zone. And Minnesota able to hold it in deep. Bounces to the near wing side. Malte will hop on it. She'll feed it over. Olivia Knowles, the former Gopher captain, will work it along the boards, and Toronto's able to break out finally. Rougeau ahead for Malte. Malte, a little wrister that bounces out in front of Hensley. And that's the thing about Toronto. You just see it. It's in their DNA right now. Just get it to the net. Good things are going to happen, most likely.
And that's what happens when you're playing good hockey. Everything seems so much easier. Everything seems to be a little bit more simple. You're not overthinking things. You're not second-guessing things. And a team that's playing good hockey makes everything look seamless. And Toronto is definitely playing that way as of late, and so far here tonight in downtown Minneapolis.
Claire to George will start it back up the middle. Kramer, the return pass to George. It's out of her reach. Greco comes over to support the puck and gets it into the Toronto zone. Emma Greco leading Minnesota in plus-minus. She's a +5. The veteran stay-at-home defender has really had a nice year. She's from Burlington, Ontario, taking on Toronto here tonight. Probably a special game for her. Renata Fast will chisel it up to the far wing corner. Hacks at it again, held up here by Brooke Bryant. Bryant to the point, drive, knocked down in front. Bouncing puck, Toronto is able to work it back to center. And here comes Willoughby. Willoughby looking to turn it to the front. Instead, she'll feed it in behind the net. And it doesn't stay in the zone. Long picked off at the point. Here's a drive over the top of the crossbar for Nurse. Sarah Nurse, her eyes must have been the size of pie plates when that ended up on her stick.
That was a dangerous pass. I don't know what Minnesota was thinking there, trying to cross that puck out of the zone like that. That is just a disaster waiting to happen. And Minnesota's lucky that the Toronto shot from the blue line from Nurse did not find its way into the back of the net.
Here's Nurse again. She'll muscle it up the wall, and now Sophie Jakes takes it back for Minnesota, and she'll play it in. Sophie Jakes with her first goal in a Minnesota uniform, first goal of the year. You know, we saw her get an assist, in fact, on the game-winning goal in her first game in a Minnesota uniform, and now she's finally got her first goal, and that's got to feel good.
Absolutely, and sometimes it takes some players longer to get adjusted than others, and Jakes getting in on the action here today, and it always feels good for a player to chip in an important part of the game. Getting that tying goal always makes it feel a little bit better, too.
Kind of could hear a collective sigh of relief from that Minnesota bench. Just looking to get some offense going again. 41 shots on goal against Boston on Sunday, and nothing to show for it. Tipped in, and it's going to roll in deep into the Toronto end. Rock is there to play it. Trying to get it ahead here for Bach. Intercepted. Zumwinkle on her backhand, trying to cut the corner around Comfer. She'll pull up and feed it in behind the net. Coming up to support is Kava. It's out of her reach. Bouncing puck settled down by Kava, but now she turns it over, and back comes Victoria Bach. Scored her first goal a couple of games ago, an empty netter against Montreal. Got that in on Hensley, and Hensley is able to deny it. Here's Fast for Turnbull, centers, and that whistles on through. Jocelyn Larocque tried to settle it down on the far wing, but it's spit back out to center. Here comes Turnbull again. Another feed across. Malte, backhand. And that hit a crowd. Boy, Toronto moves the puck well. And now Cunnin. She'll hammer it back into the Toronto zone. Out of her net is Campbell. Second goalie taken in the draft behind Hensley. They're locking horns here tonight in Minneapolis. Battle for it along the Minnesota blue line, and it's flipped up out of play with 7:02 to go here in the first. Troy Ryan led Canada to gold at Beijing in the Olympics, and he's going to be the head coach at the 2026 games when the Winter Olympics go to Milan. There's another drive on. Hensley left a rebound out there. Samantha Kogan was there to try and drive it on, but now Boreen comes back for Minnesota. There's a long one-timer flipped away by Kristen Campbell. Boy, I mean, again, we talked about how this team started, and Troy Ryan has just done a masterful job getting this team back to the way they're playing now.
Well, you know, it's an inaugural season as well. All these teams are playing together for the first time, and a lot of them have played together at different levels, but playing in the PWHL for the first time. So some teams took a little longer to get going than others, and Toronto was one of those teams who didn't have the best start, but now they're playing like one of the best teams in the league.
And here's one of the best lines in the league. Spooner will feed it down. Hannah Miller. Sarah Nurse out there. Here's Miller now high in the slot. Feeds it across. Monroe moving in. Pad save Hensley. And then swept out from in front by Steckline. Another good scoring chance for Toronto, but Hensley was able to hold her ground.
Yeah, the kick save kicked it out into some dangerous territory, and Lee Steckline, who's so good defensively for Minnesota, gets that puck out of harm's way. And she's just a very calm defender, doesn't panic in those situations, and gets the puck out for Minnesota.
Zumwinkle got one on. Blocker save. Campbell loose in front. Tight quarters. Picked up by Spooner. And lost it in the circle. Cava will throw it back into the corner. Minnesota trying to set up a play here on the offense. Flaherty, a drive. Ooh, and that may have stumbled Miller. She got that in the boot. Rebound out in front, and diving out there is Kristen Campbell to get the whistle with 5:08 to go in the period. Many
players making a return to campus here today as former U of M players. Heisey played her college hockey at the U of M, but of course not getting a chance to play in tonight's matchup here at Mariucci.
Another former Gopher, Abby Boreen. Her second game of a 10-day call-up. She has 2 more games on this current call-up after this, and then she's going to be used up for the regular season. She'll be available in some capacity in the postseason. She has looked really good in her 2 call-ups so far.
I was just thinking, watching a play of hers just moments ago, she skates like she's got somewhere to be. Everything she does with intention, and I think that's what I love about her so much, is not only is she getting good looks and helping set up plays, but she just knows where she's supposed to be, and she always finds a way to get there. And I respect the hustle out of a player like that, who's willing to kind of put it all out there in every shift, and she definitely plays like that, and I really like what she's done for this Minnesota team.
Greco will send it on. That hit the post. Campbell got a piece of it, didn't see it, and it drifted off the post and out. Again, that was not a really good angle, but Greco threw it on the net, and almost something happened for her.
Well, sometimes it's those ugly, greasy goals that get you back in your groove again. Minnesota found a way to tie this game up after coming off a game where they were shut out against Boston, and sometimes those ugly ones are what you need to get back to your scoring ways, and Minnesota comes close there.
Turnbull. Another shot blocked in front. Connors tried to send one on Hensley. Here comes Minnesota back. Brooke Bryant. She'll step in and dump it in. Line change for Minnesota. This is Claire to George. She tried to feed it down the wall. Turnbull takes it away, and with great speed tried to feed it to Malte. That just failed to click. Here's Steckline now. Tied at 1. 3:20 to go, opening period. This ice sheet at 3M Arena at Mariucci, it was reduced in size over the offseason. It's no longer an Olympic size ice sheet. Not as much room as there used to be, but It's still a little bit bigger than what they have at the X. And that was from a tough angle for Greco, and you can see it got iron.
Yeah, it went off the skate of Renata Fast out front.
Toronto looking to pass Minnesota with a regulation win tonight. Two of the top 3 teams in the PWHL. Montreal in first place at the halfway point. They've got 24 points. Montreal will not play again until Saturday against Boston. Here's Boreen, who we just talked about. Staying away from Vasco's check. Feeds it up top for Jakes. She's got a big shot. That's deflected. Steckline was thrown down. Looking right at the official saying, how come you didn't call something? Rougeau had her kind of tied up, and now Rougeau and Steckline go down in a heap again. Check that. That's panic. And we've seen physical play this year in the PWHL, and again, players are still getting used to it. As we have an icing call with 2:29 to go.
No penalties called so far in this matchup here tonight. Take another look at the play Clay just mentioned here moments ago in the corner here. Looked like a clean play to me. The puck was there. They're both battling for it. And hey, play along the boards. It ain't easy to pry that puck loose. And that's what happens sometimes when you get in there and get dirty. And sometimes you find yourself laying flat on the ice.
Kava and Vasco take that draw. Held in the zone by Minnesota. Picked up here by Krasova. Again, stood up by Lorianne Rougeau. He's had a physical period. Coming up on the 18-minute mark of the opening session here. Shots on goal even at 6 apiece. Goals by Turnbull and Jakes, 1 apiece. Bouncing puck. Off the end wall. Gathered in by Channel. Channel will work it up along the far wing. Picked off by Nurse at center. She'll step in over the line. On her backhand. Goes forehand. Will feed the top of the circle. Now here's Renata Fast. Fast turns. Fires. Trying to tip it on with Spooner. Boy, just the angle of the stick just off enough to send that wide.
And Minnesota had players on her. You got to keep an eye on her at all times, but especially when she's in that tight to the goal like that. And Toronto looking for the tip play out front. And that's kind of what happens with the tip play. You got to have some finesse to it to get it where you want it to go. And that one went just wide.
There's another drive, and Hensley like a cat. Let's go back to that steal.
Yeah, trying to reverse it over the boards there, and Conning gets it poked off her stick, and Toronto right to work. Neither team has really had a chance to set up shop for an extended period of time. I'm sure both coaches probably pretty happy with the performance in this first period here tonight.
And for Minnesota to get that equalizer so quickly after the Turnbull goal, that was very important.
Absolutely. Getting a good response after a goal is important in any situation, especially when you're struggling to score, and especially when that response ends up being a goal of your own. And
that was tipped on. Hensley keeps it out, and she'll scoop that one off the ice, off the stick. Panic to take it for Minnesota. She'll feed it into the corner. Channel. And Steckline back there defensively for Minnesota, trying to get it out of the zone here. Don't want to give up a goal if you're Minnesota here in the final 20 seconds, especially after you got some momentum back with the Jakes tally. A minute and 54 seconds after the Turnbull goal. Jakes scores, and as I say that, there's a whack by Turnbull, and she got that on net.
It's looking for goal number 2 of the night in the final seconds here. Minnesota escapes the trouble, though.
And that's going to do it.
Welcome back into Minneapolis. I'm here now with Sophie Jakes, who scored the tying goal for Minnesota back in the first period. Sophie, welcome to Minnesota. You get your first goal of the season here with Minnesota. How did that feel to not only tie the game, but to get that first goal out of the way here?
Yeah, definitely very exciting and a bit of a stress relief.
Well, Minnesota has dropped their last 2 matchups in regulation, and you got shut out in Boston the other day. How good did it feel just to get that one goal, know that you could get the job done, and now get back to work in the second?
Yeah, I think definitely scoring early is giving us a lot of confidence and a lot of energy heading into these next 2 periods.
Today we're celebrating Black History Month during this game and celebrating this whole month. I know this is important to you as well. What does it mean to be able to highlight this here at today's game?
Yeah, definitely grateful that the league's able to do this and to just continue to promote diversity within the sport.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sophie. Congrats on the goal. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
She's Alexis Pearson. I'm Clay Matvick. Glad to have you along here tonight from Minneapolis, 3M Arena at Mariucci. The Wild at home. So the X is occupied tonight. There's Kelly Panic ready to be on this first shift for Minnesota. You can see the assist leaders in this league. She's in a three-way tie with Mueller and Vanna Silva at the top of the PWHL.
Pretty good company there with some of the names on that list. Kelly Panic working her way up to a three-way tie for first place off of her assist earlier on the Minnesota goal. She's been great for Minnesota so far this season.
Here's Panic now. And it's going to slip past her stick all the way back to the Minnesota zone. Lee Stecklein will drive it off the wall, trying to clear, takes another chop at it, and does get it out. Coyne Schofield will feed it along the near wall for Minnesota and Abby Boreen. Toronto takes it back as we're 30 seconds into the second period, tied at 1. Minnesota, if they can win this one in regulation, they'll be back in first place in a tie with Montreal, albeit. And, of course, Toronto, the hottest team in the PWHL with 5 straight wins. If they can win in regulation, they're going to be in second place. And now you get a whistle.
That's going to be a hooking call against Kelly Panic. And happened right in front of the official. They're not going to miss that call often when you're directly, oh, I beg your pardon, it's going to be Lee Stecklein who's heading to the box here. But right in front of the official, they're not going to miss that call all that often. And now we see our first power play of the game will go in favor of Toronto. Here's another look at it. Just got her stick in on the arms there, disrupted the play. Renata Fast drawing the penalty there for the blue and white.
Well, neither of these teams have had a good year on the power play, but Toronto's going to get the first one of this hockey game. Lee Stecklein leading Minnesota in penalty minutes. She had no penalties in the last 5 games, but now she gets the gate here in this one. Not even a minute into period number 2.
There's not too much in Lee Stecklein's game you can knock, but she does march to the penalty box quite a bit, and especially the first couple games of the season, she was in there a lot, and now she sits for 2. Minnesota going to try to kill this off to keep it a tied game.
Here's Spooner, kept it low to the ice. That's going to go wide, bouncing puck, tight quarters, and jamming at it. George will clear it to the far wing side, and it'll slide out of the zone. Oh, this is a dangerous Toronto team right now. They have got so much confidence, and now they're on the power play as Fast can't hold that in. This is going to bounce all the way back in behind Campbell.
Only 3 goals in 37 attempts on the power play for Toronto this season. They have allowed 2 shorthanded goals, though, so Minnesota perhaps a chance to try to pick one up against a team who's given up a couple in that category already.
Connors comes to the middle, neutralized by Flaherty, held in by Bach. Now on the stick of Emma Malte. 50 seconds to go in this advantage, the first of the hockey game for either team. Flanagan, stick handling just inside the blue line, looking for a one-timer. LaRock now back, they score as Flanagan gets the one-time to go past Hensley, and Toronto on the advantage takes a 2-1 lead.
That didn't look like it caught anything on the way in, which if that's the case, Flanagan will be credited with the goal. It looked like it just kind of went straight through. There was a lot of people in the lane there, both for Toronto and Minnesota. We'll take another look at it. Flanagan swaps spots there at the point, hands it off, then gets the pass back, one-times it through, and based on everybody's reactions, I am thinking this was just a straight shot into the back of the net, beating Hensley glove side, and Toronto regains its lead.
Callie Flanagan, the 28-year-old defender from Burlington, Massachusetts, with her second goal of the season. Played at Boston College, won gold with Team USA in Pyeongchang. And just like it was in the first period, Toronto gets the first one of the period. And it's Flanagan.
Flanagan coming off a great season with the Boston Pride and the PHF. 16 points in the season was a personal best for her and her professional career in that regard.
Now Brooke Bryant with some room to operate, trying to stick handle, got it in deep, but wasn't able to get a shot toward the net. Rougeau was frustrating that the whole way. Now back at center. Loose at the red line. Minnesota is able to shovel it ahead to George. Tried to feed it across for Kramer inside of her reach. Minnesota was going to be offside anyway, it appeared. Back at center, Stecklein hammers at it, but it's taken off her stick, and Toronto will get it back into the Minnesota zone. Here's Melissa Channel now from behind the Minnesota net. Just about 3 minutes into period number 2, a goal for Toronto. Here in the early stages of the second, and they're back on top. Out in front of the scorer's table. This is Vasco trying to advance it for Toronto. Now it's Sophie Jakes coming back for Minnesota. Got a shot on somehow through LaRock, who was essentially a screen for Campbell, but Campbell was able to muffle it and get the whistle.
Somehow, the key word there, that play looked like it wasn't going to develop into much of anything, and all of a sudden she's able to get the shot in on net. This play starts in the neutral zone where she picks up the puck, carries it down, tries to cut into the edge of the circle there, takes a shot, and Campbell has to gobble it up for the save. Draws the whistle with 16:42 to go in the second.
Here's Emma Malte. Rink wide pass for Connors, intercepted nicely by Melissa Channel. Got it back to the Toronto line momentarily. And now back 2-on-1, a chance, and Connors just drifted that one wide to the far post. Hensley taking exception to people on her doorstep, and she's throwing her weight around. With 16:21 to go, we're going to get a face-off in the Minnesota end.
And goaltenders don't often have welcome mats at the top of their crease, and Hensley making it known that that area is hers alone. The shot that just drifted wide got this thing started, and then this puck pops up, and Hensley trying to catch it like an outfielder there. Didn't like how close the company was at the edge of her crease. And some of the tendencies of Minnesota from the game against Boston is drifting into this game here today.
Again, we're at 3M Arena at Mariucci. A lot of these players played college hockey at Ritter across the way. That is the home ice sheet for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And also have skated here a time or two, I'm sure. Spooner going right to the front. Nurse feeding a pass for her, but sticked away by Hensley. Well done by the goaltender.
And that was a great stick to break up the play a little bit initially by Minnesota.
Boreen comes in on side from the circle. Oh, giving up her body nicely. Renata Fast got a piece of that with her breezers to keep that from getting on Campbell.
Boreen was waiting for the moving screen to send that one in, and by the time she sent the shot in, Toronto had set up in the lane to try to get a stick or body on it, and were able to break up the play.
Leading goal scorer in the league, Natalie Spooner, feeds it ahead for Bach. Bach will take it to the far wall. Throws it out in front. Nobody home for Toronto. Intercepted by Panic. And she's going to slide this one all the way out of the zone. Coyne got to it to keep that from being an icing. Boy, she's so fast.
She really is. And she skates with her head down. She gets to the puck quickly. And that's part of what's helped her create so many opportunities as of late, is she just finds a way to get to the puck. And she doesn't stop until she gets there and gets an opportunity and is there able to negate an icing call because of her speed.
Minnesota captain with 5 points in the last 7 games, 4 goals. I mean, no doubt she is the soul of this team, and they really need her leadership right now as things have kind of been tough for Minnesota the last few games.
This is where you look up to the veterans, the players who've been there, done that. When you're in a bit of a losing streak or not able to score like you want to, that's where you look to the players who've done it before and say, what do we do? Help us out. Where do we go from here? What are we doing wrong? And a player like that, having them on your team, Kendall Coyne-Schofield, is going to help tremendously.
Jocelyn LaRock trying to move it, and does along the far wall. Toronto got it to the line, held in by Minnesota. Now it's poked out. Stecklein centers it ahead for Budarak. Budarak on her backhand, lost it as she takes a check from Fast. Renata Fast having a very nice period. Hacked at, held in by Stecklein. She'll work it across. Sophie Jakes. That was high off the back wall. Again, Jakes with the lone Minnesota goal here tonight. Loose puck. DeGeorge is there. She'll hold it in deep for Minnesota. Brooke Bryant. She'll be ridden off the puck by Fast. And again, Stecklein trying to hold the zone, but Minnesota's going to have to come back to center. Steckline now will step in. Takes it wide. There's a shot on rebound. And somehow Campbell was able to keep her wits about her as Minnesota was breathing down her neck. Left a juicy rebound out there, but Kramer couldn't drive it home.
Man, the broadcasts have been so fun. The games have been great. It's just, I can't believe we're already at the end of February in this inaugural season, Clay.
Everybody doing a great job except Rick Palermo. I keyed. Tied at 2-1. It was tied at 1 at the start of the period. Then a power play goal on the only shot of the power play for Toronto. Flanagan, the first Toronto player to score a power play goal this season, not named Natalie Spooner.
Yeah, 8.1% on the power play heading into tonight. 3 power play goals, and as you mentioned, all of them coming off the stick of Spooner. And Flanagan able to break the tie here in the second period with a power play goal of her own.
Kelly Panic tried to turn it toward the middle, had it taken away by Allie Monroe, the product of Syracuse University. Flanagan now will feed it along for Turnbull. She got the first goal in this hockey game in the first period. Head pass to Malte out of her reach. And Flaherty will go back for Minnesota. Her and Malte collide. I'll tell you, Malte always around the puck. She's so scrappy. Centering. Oh, one-timer. And that was kind of a heeled shot by Spooner. She did not get all of it. Kind of knuckled off her stick.
And Panic got in the way of it as well to break up the play.
And now Spooner feeds it out in front. And Nurse couldn't drive it on. That one drifted past the right post. Held in here at the point. Spooner, some good stick handling, gets to the circle. Great pass. Oh, and Miller, point blank, grade A, denied by Hensley.
That felt like a goal waiting to happen, and Hensley able to get to the other post and makes the save. That's a huge one. At this point in the game, Toronto up 1. Hensley keeps it just a 1-goal differential.
Just a shooting gallery right now for Toronto. Out in front again. Miller will feed it back for Spooner. Here's Fast in the circle. Across for Miller. One-timer, LaRocque, and that skips up over the top of the net.
Hensley lost her goal stick for a moment. Now she gets it back.
Boy, they move the puck so well and so quickly. Along the wall. Nurse fed it out to Willoughby, and it hops her stick back out to center. Toronto will regroup and dump it in on a cross-angle feed. Now here is Minnesota back the other way. Kendall Coyne-Schofield tried to get it across for Cunnin, who was knifing down the middle. Rougeau will gather it up and move it ahead for Comfer. Comfer through the logo at center. Hands off for Howard. Howard's got some room to work. Another save by Hensley and no rebound.
Hensley trying to toss that one into the corner, but it got stuck in her pads, and so instead she had to just try to pounce on it and cover it up. But it would be Spooner first ripping this shot off. That got deflected on the way in. Went off the post on that sequence. And then this one, I don't know how that one did not find the back of the net. Hensley coming way out, ready to make that save. Minnesota standing strong for now, keeping it just a 1-goal game.
Spooner very active on that last shift. There's Fleming now. 2-on-1. Nice save by Campbell. Rebound, backhand, and Fleming thought she had one, but it goes wide of the far post.
And the crowd behind the net thought she had one as well. They were ready to celebrate, but Campbell keeps it out.
Campbell was trying to get the whistle, but couldn't get control of the puck. As we're past the halfway point, right on the doorstep, another great scoring chance for Minnesota. And again, it's Fleming who can't capitalize. Now here's Jakes. She'll feed it down from the end line, bouncing puck off to the far wing side. And this is Kramer. She'll send it around the end boards. Howard will get there for Toronto and send it airborne all the way back to the Minnesota line.
Well, Toronto about 3 good looks on one end of the ice. Minnesota trying to give them a taste of their own medicine on the other side, looking for a chance of their own and coming very close to tying this game up. Here's a look at the opportunity that almost gave Minnesota their 2nd goal of the game. Puck carried over the blue line. Shot comes through, bounces off at Campbell. She tries to reach for it, can't get to it. Chaos ensues. Minnesota banging away, and it just rolls past the goal line. Just about 2 or 3 inches away from that goal line. And that's what the crowd behind the net was reacting to. The chances are there. The opportunities are there. you're setting up the play how you want it to, and it's just not finding the back of the net. You saw that puck roll just wide of the net across that goal line. That's just how it goes sometimes, unfortunately.
Here at center ice, Kendall Coyne-Schofield will take it along the far wing. Poked off her stick by Monroe. Coyne-Schofield gets it back, feeds the point, they score! Big drive, Natalie Bookbinder. And now we're even again.
That's her first goal of the season here with Team Minnesota. She's got an assist heading into tonight's game, but finds the back of the net herself for the first time this season, and once again, it's a big one. And for Minnesota to get this game tied up once again, you see how this play developed. Kendall Coyne-Schofield, who else? Setting up the play down low. And the shot from the point, a bit of a high riser. Campbell tries to come up to play it, and she gets beat. And Minnesota ties it back up at 2.
It's her first goal in the Professional Women's Hockey League. Battle for it along the wall. Toronto holds the zone with Spooner. Back for Fast, down low, right toward the net there for Nurse, but again, another block shot by Lee Steckline.
Toronto on a power play here. It kind of happened in the interim while we were discussing other things, and so it's Britton Fleming taking a seat in the box. That'll put Toronto on their second power play of the night. They scored on one earlier today.
That kind of caught us off guard. Britton Fleming, who's played really well here tonight, having to sit out another minute and 15 seconds. Back at center, though, Minnesota's able to clear it out and drive it in. They'll get fresh penalty killers on the ice. Minnesota 79% on the penalty kill. That's last in the league. They've already killed off over a minute of this one.
And a penalty kill after scoring a goal, and especially a goal like the tying goal Minnesota just scored, is so huge because you just kind of got the momentum back in your favor. You just got back into the game. You don't want to give your opponent the advantage right after that happens. So getting a kill here is critical for Minnesota.
Bookbinder, who just leveled this game at 2, takes a whack at it, sends it to the far wing side. Malte holding it in deep. And now they feed the point for LaRocque. Save Hensley, and cleared by Minnesota.
Popped out to a juicy area of the zone, but Minnesota doing a good job jumping on that and sending it all the way down the ice. And Toronto maybe one more rush if they hustle here with about 10 seconds to go on the power play.
It'll be Bach carrying it up the near wing wall. Malte after it. Sophie Jakes got there first, kept it out of her reach. And now Jakes will clear it to the far side as Fleming is out of the box. Minnesota back at full strength. And now a 2-on-2 back for Minnesota. And now they've got numbers again, down low, poked away. Boy, a couple of times the play was slow to develop there for Minnesota. They never got a shot. And now Bach on her backhand. Got it on, saved by Hensley. Again, left a rebound out there, but nobody knifing in for Toronto. Now here's Howard coming in. Good feed to the middle. Backhand goes just wide of the left post for Monroe. Boy, plays develop so quickly for Toronto. 5:25 to go, second period. Tied at 2 again. We were tied at 1 in the first period. Now Kava coming in. Throws it out in the middle. And that's going to slide right on through to the far side.
Fans behind the net wanted a call there, looking for a tripping call, none coming.
Just had that one penalty against Minnesota in this game. And now this is Nurse at center. She'll take it back in her own zone. Sarah Nurse, one of the bright stars in this league and in this sport. One of the pre-draft signees, as Campbell is going to see that come in, and she's going to stop it with 4:39 to go in the period. You know, pretty good crowd, all things considered. I mean, there was some snow here in the Twin Cities tonight, and the temperature just plummeted. It was about 60 degrees yesterday. Much colder tonight. And, of course, Minnesota not playing in their customary XL Energy Center surroundings. But still people turning up for this one here between Minnesota and Toronto. As Kendall Coyne-Schofield takes a check from Renata Fast. Not afraid to play physical is number 14 in white.
You mentioned that she's had a good game, or a good period. She's had a great game. She's broken up some plays. She's kind of been in there causing some trouble, and another big play there.
There's going to be an icing call with 4:01 to go in the second period. We have not seen a Minnesota power play as of yet. And that's been an Achilles heel throughout the year for Minnesota. Coming in last in that statistic, 2 for 34 on the year. And Campbell trying to reach back and pull that into her body, and she does that. Now some pushing and shoving to the side of the cage. Yeah, we saw the game against Boston. Minnesota probably as grumpy as they've been in a game. Even Kendall Coyne-Schofield was upset with some of the Boston players in that game. And now we're seeing it again here tonight against Toronto.
Yeah, that's a good word. I used the word angry a few times, but I like grumpy better. I think that better describes kind of the attitude, a little bit grumbly, a little bit frustrated.
Yep.
And they weren't afraid to make it known against Boston when they were displeased with the situation, and we're starting to see some of that trickle into this game here today. Of course, this game they picked up a couple goals. We're sitting at a tied game heading towards the end of the second period, but Minnesota has carried some of that feistiness over, and I respect when a team plays that way, kind of standing their ground and not letting themselves get pushed around.
Here's that third line, which has been pretty productive tonight for Minnesota. Fleming with Cunnin and Budarak out there. Especially Britton Fleming. She has had several shots on goal tonight. And now Greco is going to lift this one all the way back to the Toronto zone. Larocque nearly lost it. Almost turned it over out in front for Budarak. And now we're going to get a penalty call. Yep.
So you just mentioned it, Minnesota. Not a chance on the power play yet, but they'll get a crack at it here. Still looking for their first lead of the game as well. They've trailed twice tonight. Tied it up twice. Here's another look at it, just getting the stick in on the hands there on Budarak.
The power play brought to you by Royale Tiger Towel. Power through tough messes. Minnesota under 6% on the year. Last in the league. They're 0 for their last 8 on the advantage. And we saw them move the puck really well on Sunday against Boston at the X, but ended up being 0 for 4. Malte got it over to the far wing side, and Monroe is able to drive it out for Toronto. This is the best penalty kill in the league. Malte has scored a jailbreak goal. In fact, she got the first one in PWHL history last month. But it's 95%, a very effective penalty kill.
I mean, all the penalty kills in the league, honestly, are above what would be considered impressive for hockey standards. And part of that is because the power plays have struggled for so many of these teams, Minnesota being one of them. So Toronto has made it tough on every opponent to put the puck in the back of the net on the power play. Minnesota could really use a goal here. I'm sure Coach Ken Klee would be very pleased if they could find a way to get the lead here. He wanted to see more opportunities in tight, finishing on plays. They've responded well the few times they've been down here tonight. If they could get a lead here heading into the locker room at intermission, it would really boost their energy and momentum heading into the third.
Unable to get any traction on this advantage so far. In fact, a turnover, and Turnbull was ahead of that centering pass. Now here comes Minnesota onside. DeGeorge will flip it out over the middle. Nobody there for Minnesota. Under 30 seconds to go in the power play. Zumwinkle lost the puck through her skates. Toronto clears. And just 20 seconds to go in this first power play of the night for Minnesota. 35 seconds to go in the period. Carrying it in deep. This is Bookbinder. She's got the game-tying goal. And turned over. Fast is able to lug it out to center, and that's going to do it. Leslie back into the play, and they're going to whistle this one down with 21.7 seconds left. So Toronto does it again.
Yeah, it's tough going up against a penalty kill that is as good as Toronto's is. And after a while, you know, setting up the play and getting a good cycle only does so much for you. I mean, at a certain point, you have to change it up and find a different way to get the job done if it's not working.
By the way, all 3 penalties tonight, hooking penalties, for whatever that's worth. 10 seconds to go in the period. Malte will step in over the line. 5 seconds to go in the second. She's just going to flip it into the corner, and that's going to do it. So we have played 40 minutes here at Mariucci, and we are tied at 2.
Welcome back in 2-2 after 2 here in Minneapolis. I'm standing by with one of the goal scorers for Toronto, Callie Flanagan. Callie, your team has had the lead twice tonight, seen it slip away twice. What do you need to do in the third period to get the lead back and hang on to it this time?
Yeah, I think in the third period we just have to stick to our identity, stick to doing the things that make us, you know, what our team identity is, and those are, you know, winning all our battles and competing as hard as we can.
Your team has won their last 5 games, coming into a matchup against Minnesota, who's dropped their last 2 games. What has worked so well for your team in this 5-game win streak that you can use in the third period to get you that win ultimately?
Yeah, I think just more of what I said. I think the last 5 games we kind of just found our team identity, and that's, like I said, just working really hard, winning all our battles and competing, and I think that's what makes our team so successful. And I think just, you know, we bring that into the third period and we're able to, you know, win all our battles and just give some more compete. I think we'll be good to go.
It was your second goal of the season that gave your team their second lead of the night. What did you see from that shot at the blue line to get it through?
Yeah, we've just been talking about our power play a lot, and that was kind of a set play that we had, you know, just to try and get a shot on net right away with the one-timer, and Joss gave me a really great pass, and I was luckily able to get it through.
Well, congrats on the goal, and good luck in the third.
Thank you very much.
Big 20 minutes coming up here in Minneapolis. Nobody hotter in the PWHL than Toronto coming in. They've won 5 in a row, including a 4-1 win over Minnesota February 3rd in Toronto. 2-2 as we're underway in the third period. And Toronto's got possession. Here's Turnbull. Blair Turnbull scored the first goal tonight. Carries it in deep, but then turns it over to Minnesota. Kelly Panic will gather it up, move it ahead. Coyne Schofield. Driven down to the ice by Jocelyn Larocque. Play carries on. And now Renata Fast will start it ahead. The captain Turnbull got it to Malte. Malte just unable to secure it, and it's tipped in deep, and it's an icing.
Well, Minnesota has to be careful in this third period if they want to find a way to get their first lead and ultimately win this game.
Now, if Minnesota can find a way to win this one, especially without Taylor Heisey, without Liz Scheppers, Heisey out for the 5th straight, Scheppers missing her 3rd in a row. I mean, that would be a real accomplishment and a much-needed win. We said it before, not only would it put them back in first place, but I think the confidence would be back for Minnesota after a 2-game losing streak.
Well, and you really miss a player like Heisey and Scheppers as well, but we've seen what Heisey can do for this team. And you need to find ways to get other players to step up when your star players are either injured or maybe not performing their best, because they're going to have nights where they're not playing their best either. And as we get later on in the season and we approach the playoffs and you get into those playoff games, you need all lines rolling. You need other players kind of finding their groove. You can't just rely on 1 or 2 to get the job done every night.
Former Badger Sophia Cunnan got it on to Campbell, and she just paddles it away. Bouncing puck at the blue line, settled down by Cunnan. Boy, Heisey would love to be playing here, too, on her former campus. Of course, Patty Kazmaier winner a couple of years ago. This is going to drift in deep into the Toronto zone. Gathered up by Jesse Comfer. Comfer will feed it ahead for Bach. Bach saw it roll off her stick. Now Minnesota back the other way. George climbs into the zone. Is pushed up against the wall by Rougeau, who has been very physical tonight. 33-year-old native of Quebec. Here's Bach again. Up the near wing wall. Now making it to the net. Got a shot on Hensley. Big pad save. And off her body, I should say, by Hensley. Now right out in front, trying to tip it on was Leslie. And Minnesota's able to clear it out of the zone.
Bach hasn't played the entire season here with Toronto, or I should say hasn't played the entirety of games Toronto has played, but she's got 1 goal in the game she has played. Had a few options with what she could have done with that puck there. Decided to rip the shot off short side, and Hensley had to be ready for it.
I think it hit her in the shoulder.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Now Fast holds it in at the blue line. Bouncing puck goes to the end boards. Jumped on by Jakes. Stretch pass for Coyne Schofield out of her reach. Fast maneuvering her body around the defense. And now Minnesota will take it back and they'll regroup back in their own zone. Here comes Panic to play it across. Now back for Panic. Long shot. Steered away by Campbell and out of play. With 16:23 to go in regulation. Grace Zumwinkle goes down in a heap. Monroe took her out of the play. Channel. Long drive. Tipped on. But kept out by Campbell. Zumwinkle was standing right on the doorstep trying to angle that past the goaltender.
Great look by Minnesota. Tips are hard to stop for a goaltender. When that puck changes direction, it's hard to adjust, and Minnesota with a great chance there.
Turned over out in front. Oh, that fails to click. Monroe couldn't handle that pass from Connors. Turnovers against this Toronto team can kill you. Here's Connors again on a backhand, flips it out in front. Nobody there for Toronto. Bookbinder will wheel it back to center. Plays it off on the off wing. Long drive, save, rebound, trickles wide.
Was that a copy and paste of the last one that trickled just wide across the goal line like that?
Goodness. Minnesota's had a couple of those here tonight. Very easily could be 4-2 right now, Minnesota, but they go by the boards. Spooner, look out. She'll send it wide of the near post. And Natalie Spooner, 10 goals. That leads the PWHL coming into this one. Miller at the blue line, turned it over to Fleming. It's flipped over to the far side. Minnesota back at center. Cunnin can't get it with that long reach, and that's going to be an icing. Let's go back to those last two Minnesota chances.
So close, but not able to find the back of the net. Here's the tip that comes through. Just a great shot, a great tip. That was Krzyzova who got her stick on that one. And then this one just rolls wide. And that's happened to Minnesota twice tonight, where that puck has just skittered past the goal line.
That was Bookbinder again, just bearing down. She got her first goal of the year earlier tonight. The tying goal to make it 2-2 back in the second. Renata Fast again at neutral ice. Won an NCAA title with Clarkson. Here's Howard. Cunnin tried to take the puck away, couldn't do it. LaRocque holds it in at the blue line. Nice block. There's another one. That time was Britton Fleming giving up her body.
Tally another one on the list. They had 8 coming into this period, and they're going to need a few more before this game is over if they want to keep the high-powered offense off the score sheet.
Oh my, Jakes with a pretty pass to the middle for George. And then a drive from the point. Kava will hold it in. Check that. That's Kramer. Drifts to the far wing side. Tied at 2. Past the 6-minute mark of the third. 10 block shots for Minnesota in this hockey game. It's a developing story. If they hang on to win this one, it's going to be a big reason why. That's going to get in on Campbell. She's going to make no mistake. And we've got 13.5 minutes to go. Wrap around. That was Boreen. She's denied at the side of the cage. Panic will flip it up. Greco got knocked down. Man, we've seen some physical play at times here tonight. Cross ice pass. Shot kind of neutralized out in front of the net. Now back the other way comes Toronto.
Great feed, but good job by Toronto to break it up defensively.
Leslie holds it in the zone. Has Monroe on her wing. Shot save, and Monroe keeps it alive for Toronto. Here's Leslie. Slides it across. Nobody there on the off wing, and Coyne Schofield will send it back to the Toronto line. Who's going to get the next one? Very well could be the game winner. Shots here in this period. Minnesota 6, Toronto 2. So Minnesota seemingly now carrying the play. As I say that, here comes Kava. Oh, and she flipped it wide of the net. Jakes to the corner. One-timer. Sophie, trying to tip it past was Zumwinkle. She gets it back. Fast, trying to poke it off her stick. Zumwinkle, great stick handling, but now finally has her pocket picked. And Turnbull will drive it in from center ice, coming up on the 8-minute mark of the third period.
Well, I like that side angle attempt there at the side of the net, looking for the tip.
Kruzova trying to settle it down, got it to the blue paint. Kava standing on the back door.
She's had 2 good looks in the last couple sequences here.
Now Malte will flip it out at center ice. Here's Sarah Nurse, pulls up on the near wing wall, has it taken away by Cunnin. Cunnin with speed. Rides the rail, will flip it in. Tied up in the corner, Cunnin in to support the puck. Cunnin now trying to turn it toward the middle. She'll take it wide. Down in the corner, Rougeau over there to muck things up for Toronto. And now this is Fleming on her backhand. Off for Cunnin. Here's a one-timer. Channel, that hit somebody. That was Spooner. That's sticked away by Campbell to the near wing. 11:15 to go as Budarak will have it at neutral ice. Minnesota trying to get a new set of skaters out on the ice. Toronto trying to catch him on that change.
Well, great pace to this third period. Sometimes in a tied game, things slow down a little bit in the third period, but this pace has been fast. Seen chances on both sides of the ice.
We knew that Toronto was going to be fast, and they certainly have been tonight. You know, Hensley gave up, you know, maybe an atypical goal, the first one tonight. That was scored by Turnbull, but other than that, she's been pretty sharp. Has again done a good job keeping Minnesota in this hockey game because she's been punished at times out in front. And again, Minnesota trying to stop the hottest team in the PWHL tonight. Rink-wide pass intercepted at center by Flaherty. Flaherty trying to feed it ahead to Bryant. Bryant came in over the line without the puck. Nearing the halfway point of the third. Ooh, almost picked up by Boreen at the line. Now Comfer will just dump it in. Fresh skates on the ice for Toronto. Fatigue starts to become a factor here too now, Alexis.
Absolutely, and for Minnesota, this is their second game in 3 nights, and you know, you definitely start to think about that in the third, and with a tied game, you don't know, maybe you need a little extra energy tonight depending on how this game goes. So you definitely don't want to use it all up before it's too late. It's going to be a tight one right down to the finish here, regardless of what happens the next few minutes, and every skater on the ice is going to have to dig a little deeper right now and find some extra gas in the tank.
Sophie Jakes trying to move it along for Minnesota. Tied up along the wall. Malte coming away with it only for a moment. Steckline got it back. And now it's played in on an angle by Boreen. Kava will lay it in behind the net for Minnesota. Minnesota in their purple sweaters. Coming up on the 9-minute mark here of the period. Coming up with 9 minutes to play. That's sent wide of the post. Kava in behind. Renata Fast trying to play it for Toronto. Good forecheck by Minnesota. Now a drive. Jakes. Pad save that time by Campbell. Jakes already with a goal here tonight. And now lugging it back through the neutral ice zone. That is Nurse. Plays it off for Malte. She'll throw it out in front of the blue paint. And back out of the zone. Toronto has to tag up. Here's a chance coming in. Oh, what a save by Kristen Campbell.
And the whistle blew. I think the whistle blew, I think, when she had the puck still.
That was a premature whistle with 8:29 to go. They have done what they have been told to do. Crowd things up in front. It's just they have not gotten the bounces. Here's LaRock from center. Head pass to Spooner. Spooner trying to get around Steckline. And that is hard to do. Steckline just takes it away from number 24. What a battle that is. Two of the best in this game right now. Back to the Toronto line. 7.5 to go. Next one very likely could be the game winner. Turnbull. And this is Connor's shallow angle shot off the side of the net. And Fleming will skate it free for Minnesota. Fleming bangs it off the wall for Budarak. She's got some room to operate. Budarak tried to send it toward to the front, but Flanagan did a nice job on the back check. Now intercepted in the Toronto zone. Connors will lug it back out to neutral ice and flip it on a play. All right, another Minnesota chance. Nothing to show for it, unfortunately.
They have yet to have a lead in this game. They've scored 2 goals. Both of them tied the game up. Another great opportunity there. Krizova's actually had a couple great looks in this third period. Got that whole sequence started there down low on Campbell, like you mentioned. They're getting those looks in tight a little bit more now, but now need to start to finish them.
Kristen Campbell played a couple of years at North Dakota before that program folded. Became the starter at Wisconsin for 3 years, won a national title in 19. She did not allow a goal in the Frozen Four that year. She was absolutely terrific, stood on her head. And we have seen her do a fantastic job here tonight against this Minnesota franchise. This is going to slide deep into the Minnesota end. It's going to be an icing call against Toronto. Yep. 18 league games on the calendar in the month of March. Welcome to March Madness, PWHL.
I was going to make that joke.
So it's going to be a busy month. And then, of course, it's a quieter month of April because of the World Championships. And then the playoffs in May.
Yeah, March will be a very critical month for these teams as they look to climb the standings, being that there isn't as much action in April. So the end of the regular season will be here before we know it, and March will be a big month to see where teams shake things out.
Boreen tried to tip that one past Campbell on a blast from the point. Didn't happen. Greco got it ahead. Panic steps in over the line, shoveled in deep by Coyne Schofield. Fly ball caught. This is the second game of the second half for Minnesota, and they have lost 2 in a row in regulation. No points coming out of those 2 games. Trying to knock off the hottest team in this league. Toronto trying to win its 6th in a row. Here's Miller, down for Spooner. Working around Steckline, went to the front and it rolled off her stick. She is so quick. She's got it again. Same maneuver, same result. Fast holds it in on the near point. Fast moving to the middle. Fast kept it low to the ice. They score. Toronto takes the lead 3-2 with exactly 5 minutes to go.
Well, Hensley went down on the play to make the first save, and then the second shot finds its way into the back of the net. And guess who? A fan favorite here in the PWHL, Sarah Nurse, gives the Toronto their lead back. Here's another look at it. The cycle up high, the shot comes through, and then Hensley ends up on her backside, and Nurse is there at the side of the net, ready to bang it home.
That's our Athletic Brewing Company play of the game. And Sarah Nurse, her 3rd goal of the year, the 29-year-old foundational signee, one of those 3 foundational signees that each team got. Of course, Sarah Nurse, one of the most popular players in this sport. Certainly one of the most popular athletes in the country of Canada. And she has given Toronto a very good opportunity to come out of here with a 6th straight win. As Minnesota now really has a sense of urgency. Turnover. There's a long drive that goes wide for Comfer. Let's see if Minnesota can respond as they have done twice tonight and get a tying goal here late. Assist going to Renata Fast at the 15-minute mark. Here's Bookbinder at center. Plays it across for Boreen. Boreen on a backhand. Pushed to the outside and up against the wall by Jocelyn Larocque. Toronto comes away with it with exactly 4 minutes to go now. This is going to roll in deep. Larocque will chip it to Fast. Boy, Minnesota, they need a spark here. They played well tonight. But in these final minutes, can they get a big goal? Hensley is going to leave this for Greco. 3.5 to play. And that's out of the reach of Panic. That's going to be an icing call. You just feel for this team right now, Alexis, because Minnesota is doing so many things right.
They're not playing terrible hockey. They're doing a lot of the right things that you need to do to win a hockey game, but they're just falling short in these last few games, and this is a tough matchup. Toronto is the best team in the league right now with the way they've been playing, looking for their 6th straight win, 4 of their last 5 wins in regulation, and trying to do it again today.
2-on-1 for Toronto, just out of the reach of Miller. Spooner fed it across nicely.
But you got to manage the emotions if you're Minnesota. Nobody's feeling sorry for you. You got to get out there and find a way to keep your head on straight, keep doing what you're doing. There's still time to work here in this 3rd period.
And you don't get the sense that Minnesota's making excuses because they don't have Taylor Heisey, they don't have Liz Sheppers, that they've had to juggle some lines around and personnel around. Ken Clee says they are giving the effort as Cava hits a body in front and skitters off to the far wing side. They aren't making excuses for their play. And this is chipped to the far wing side, held in by Cava and Minnesota. 2:15 to go. Off the back of the net, kept alive here. Kruzova feeds Bookbinder a shot. Channel now will hold it in. Plays it to the corner. One-timer. That was Kruzova again. Oh, that slips out of the zone. Kruzova couldn't hold it in.
Good shift by Minnesota, though. Trying to tie this game up, looking for yet another response in this one. Put a few pucks towards the net. Kruzova, I've been so impressed with her in this 3rd period especially. Set up another great play there. Cava's been great in this game as well, keeping some plays alive. But still, Minnesota trails by 1.
Turnbull to take this draw for Toronto. Minnesota trying to come up with it and get control. Held in by Jakes on the near point. Battle along the wall. Minnesota trying to hold the zone. They turn it over to Turnbull. She'll clang it off the wall and back out to center. 1:25 to go in the hockey game. An extra attacker is on for Minnesota. Can they get the equalizer here late? Coyne Schofield tied up. Puck comes to Boreen. Steckline's got some room at the point. Jakes feeds it across. One-timer off the side of the net. Zumwinkle sent that on. Under a minute to go. Abby Boreen down to Grace Zumwinkle. Here's Sophie. Lee Steckline moving in. Saved by Campbell and no rebound with just over 50 seconds to play. Nice face-off win cleanly to Sophie Jakes. Steckline to the circle, one-timer, hit a body in front. Jocelyn Larocque took the brunt of that one. Steckline hit another player, and that was Sarah Nurse. Nurse tries to get it out of the zone, can't. 34 seconds to go. Panic is tied up. Puck comes loose to Larocque. She'll put it up on the dasher. Comfort trying to get to it. Held in, Minnesota. Dangerous. They score! Sophie Jakes does it again. With 21 seconds to go, we're tied at 3.
Sophie Jakes, what a game she has had. 2 goals in this one and many more opportunities on top of that she has set up here tonight. And she scores a huge goal for Minnesota, tying this game up at 3 apiece with 21.1 seconds to go. She lets it fly, and you can see the joy radiating from Minnesota after that goal. Kendall Coyne Schofield nearly leaped out of her skates on the side of the net there. And what a big goal for Minnesota. Tough shift for Toronto. 2 huge blocks trying to keep this out of the back of the net, and they were some stingers too. And they can't clear. Minnesota keeps the play alive and ties it up at 3 apiece. What a battle it's been here tonight.
And if Minnesota can hang on here for 15 seconds, they're going to be guaranteed at least 1 point. That's a huge goal. Second of the game for Sophie Jakes. Her first 2 of the year coming in this game against Toronto. She's a Toronto native. You know this game is special for her, and that's going to do it. Here in regulation, we are going to a 3-on-3 overtime. And here's how it plays out in OT. We're going to have a 3-on-3 OT for 5 minutes. Next goal wins. If it's tied after that 5-minute overtime, we're going to have a best-of-5 shootout.
Toronto is the team that I would pick to win it in that situation.
2 points for an overtime or shootout win, 1 for an overtime loss. Both of these teams have already secured that. There's a shot right on by Fast that is turned away by Hensley. And again, 0 points was on the line for a regulation loss, but both of those teams have passed that test. Here's Zumwinkle taking it wide. Fast in her way. Off for Kelly Panic. Panic from a tough angle. Got the pads of Campbell. The goaltenders really important now. Obviously, they're always important, but with so much room on the ice, going to be a lot of scoring chances here. Fast. 3-on-3 overtime. Nearly turned it over. Boreen stays with it. Hustles back for it. Feeds it ahead for Coyne Schofield. She's got a little operating room here. Oh, tried to dangle around the defender. But LaRock sweeps it away. Got it for Spooner. Look out. Here comes Spooner. A drive over the top of the net and out of play.
I mean, her release is just so dangerous. That puck comes off her stick so hot. It's no wonder she's put as many pucks in the back of the net as she has so far this season. The breakout play, Spooner picks it up, carries it down the right wing, and just lets it fly. And that one ends up over the net rather than in it, but man, can she shoot.
She has 10 of the team's 31 goals this year. That's almost a third. Off the draw. Puck just kind of laying there at the dot for a while. Flanagan holds the zone for Toronto. Here in overtime, 3:28 to go. Flipped out in front. Settled down here by Miller. She'll feed the point. Miller has to regroup at center. Being hounded here by Kurzova. Chased all the way back behind the net. 3:10 to go in the OT. And that goal that Callie Flanagan scored a long time ago. Seems like years now. Miller pulls up. And good battle there with Zumwinkle, and Zumwinkle wins it to kick it out of the zone. Comfer skating back, under 3 minutes to play in the OT. Here's Spooner again, right through the middle of the ice. Spooner. Steckline trying to poke it off her stick, did momentarily. Now staples her up against the wall and frees the puck for her teammate. Here comes Panic now. Panic, 3-on-2, back the other way for Minnesota. Panic feeds the middle. Oh, Steckline couldn't get a shot on. She was kind of tied up. And now Panic again. Lee Steckline, Kelly Panic. Patience. 2:15 to go in the OT. Kelly Panic winds, fires, and a blocker save by Kristen Campbell. Steckline will get a head of steam. Feeds it ahead. Zumwinkle, big blast, and knocked away by Campbell.
Nice shot. That was a tough one for Campbell. She gets in front of it, though.
Oh, fans wanted a tripping call. Coyne Schofield went down, no penalty. That would be tough to call right there.
Yeah, it's hard to get a call in overtime. It's got to be pretty egregious. I agree, that probably is a tripping penalty, but the officials typically are going to let them play in OT.
Oh, Fast had it hop her stick, and she's got to bring it back and tag up. Malte for Nurse. Oh, here comes LaRock. Out of her reach. Otherwise, she would have had a grade A chance. Malte now. 1:20 to go. LaRock moving in. Nurse calling for it. One time, muffled shot. They score! Sarah Nurse! And that's the game winner. 2 goals late for Nurse. One in the third, one here in overtime. And Toronto is going to win its 6th in a row and get out of Minneapolis with 2 points.
What a game by Sarah Nurse tonight. Toronto, who didn't trail at any point here tonight, had to fend off Minnesota, tying it up a few times here. They ultimately get the game winner on the road in OT. And Sarah Nurse with 2 goals here tonight. What a game she had.